Hey, what's going on, guys? Today we're going to be talking about a company that I haven't talked about in a while, and that is Teamkill Media. For those of you who don't know what Teamkill Media is, they are a game development studio that made a game called Quantum Error. Now, this was a terrible game, and I actually ended up making a video. I made 2 videos on this studio in the past. The first video I made was discussing a situation where they refused to make a PC port of one of their games because they said that modders were going to make degenerate mods, basically. So this right here is the tweet that prompted me to make my first video on Teamkill Media. For those of us asking about a PC version of Code Violet, which is a game they were working on, the reason we are not bringing it to PC is we do not want anyone modding vulgar versions of the main character as well as other characters in the game. We hold our voice actresses and actors with high regard, as well as our artistic vision for the game and story, and reject any form of destroying that with sexual mods. Making a joke out of our art and possibly tarnishing the reputation of our voice actresses and actors is not worth the extra money we can make. Hashtag Code Violet. So the first video I made was just going over people's reactions and people roasting them because, it was kind of funny. But yeah, this is a stupid reason not to port to PC because NSFW art exists, so what are you gonna do about that? And the fact that you come out and say something like this is only going to embolden internet trolls. I also brought up that far in the future an emulator will exist for the PS5 and this game will be on it, so what are you gonna do about that? But that was basically it for that video. I pointed out why it was stupid what they said, and we looked at some comments roasting them. Then a couple weeks later, or a week later, I made a follow-up video on Teamkill Media. In the second video I made on Teamkill Media, I talked about how they tried to claim that PC gamers were pirates because one of their games didn't do well, despite the fact that their game was kind of under the radar. What is happening right now with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth on PC is exactly what we have experienced even though we are a small studio. It happened on the first day of our very first game, released years ago, Kings of Lorne. So for the ones who have accused our game, Sun and Bone, of having low player counts on Steam, go search Sun and Bone Torrent on Google, and you will see why. We released Sun and Bone on the Epic Games Store first before Steam, and it was instantly pirated. On both games we have released on PC, the result is low player counts and loss of revenue. In addition to not wanting graphic mods of our games, we can't devote time and resources into something that will be pirated and given away for free. They are then community noted. Sun and Bone was released under the radar, so no one ever heard of the game, and those who did play it were met with game-breaking bugs, broken AI programming, unstable FPS count, and multiple stuttering. Here's a review on Steam. So that was the main tweet I went over in that video, but they were kinda off my radar since then until I heard that dreamcastguy got a fraudulent copyright strike from them because they didn't like his review of the game. This is clear and blatant copyright abuse, there's no way around it. Dreamcastguy's video was very transformative and he was reviewing the game. And the fact that you guys are trying to defend yourself and act like you're in the right on Twitter is honestly so pathetic. Hey, if everyone around you thinks you're in the wrong but you think you're in the right, I think you might be the one in the wrong. Quantum Error 2.0 update. We are almost done with the development of our 2.0 update for Quantum Error. At this point, we would like to ask that if there is anything you would like to see adjusted or tweaked, please list it here on this post. If you know of any bugs and the exact place in the game they happened and how they happened, also please list those here. We are going to make one final pass through everything and we want to make sure there is nothing we missed. And as you could probably imagine, the replies weren't so nice to them because a lot of people heard about dreamcastguy getting falsely copyright struck because he made a YouTube video on the subject. So Monkey D-Tron here says, "Say sorry to dreamcastguy." Teamkill Media responds, "The legal side of our business is none of your concern. Yes it is, because you're making YouTube a worse place by abusing copyright. That's like if somebody robbed the bank and you start calling the cops and they come up to you and say, well, that's none of your concern. Golden Apples replies, reviews don't infringe on copyright like you guys claimed they did by attempting to use the DMCA system to strike down Dreamcastguy's video. We can see right through the bullshit. Teamkill Media says, you have no idea what you are talking about, and I will leave it at that. Yeah, that's fucking ironic. So, PlayStation Countdown says, as much as I'm excited for this, I am a little bit disappointed in you guys what you're doing to that one YouTuber. I know the community doesn't really stand with that YouTuber, but I don't like what you guys are doing, so I have to say I'm very disappointed. Teamkill Media responds, all I will say is there comes a point where something has to be done about the constant lying. What would you do if a certain person or people were doing everything they can to paint you as a scam company? I mean, can you really say anything else when you make these cool ass trailers just to release asset flips? You then ask what we would do if somebody was lying about us. Well, not abuse the copyright system, that's for sure. When your own livelihood can be affected by the lies others tell, and can make everything in life 10 times more difficult because they convince others that we are garbage and can't be trusted. Well, I mean, what you did to Dreamcast Guy kinda proves that. And all of this isn't true, but some believe it to be true, and it can affect our business. You know what else can affect your business? Abusing copyright. You would want to do something about it too. You would do something to help protect your family, business, your means to supply a living to your family. In that case, you're supposed to use a defamation lawsuit, not a DMCA claim. And let's be real, they're probably not defaming you. Your games that you released are extremely low quality. Maybe there are better ways to go about stuff like this, but this is how it went and we will learn. But ultimately certain people have got to stop with the constantly lying about who we are and what we do. Just because there have been some bad apples in the game industry in the past doesn't automatically mean we are. And QE having a few bugs doesn't mean we are a scam studio or whatever else is said about us. For some reason we've had a target on our back since we started making Quantum Error, and at this point idiotic, and we are not standing for it any longer. Constructive criticism is good. Construction criticism? Bro. People cannot like our games, that's perfectly fine. Not everyone likes everything, and we learn a lot from those who don't like our games to make the next ones better. But the lying has gone too far. Lying is not okay, and we will stand against the lying of our company and ourselves. Yeah, Dreamcast Guy wasn't lying, he was reviewing your game, which is what Dreamcast Guy does, he reviews games. You just didn't like what he had to say about your game. So you got salty and decided to abuse the copyright system. Syndicate Bias says, it's always sad when game studios block people because they didn't like what they did. Even if your game was perfect, which none is, you're only hurting yourself with how you're handling the Dreamcast Guy situation. Teamkill responds, we block people who are hateful and hostile with no conversation to have or feedback to give other than insults. The thing about his video that is the issue is primarily accusing it of not running 80% of the time, and that it is broken. There are bugs, but this idea that it is non-functional is not true, and we are done listening to lies. People can hate our games and the things we make, but acting like it is non-functioning is an issue. Sony would never let us publish a non-functioning game. The game has to work and be sellable. Okay, but he's just giving his experience with the game. And for him, it didn't function most of the time. This just sounds like copium. And I find it hilarious that you have such a big issue with lying, right? But you were the same guys who lied that it was piracy causing your Steam game to have a low player count, when in reality, the game was just bad. You know, you only hate lying when it's other people doing it and not your studio, huh? Rules for thee, but not for me. Now, there's quite a few people roasting the game. Loops here says, LOL, do people actually play this trash? Steve H says, I'd like to see you leave the gaming space. Hold Gaming says, who cares? Victus_ says, better leave gaming industry. You all suck a lot. Rainy says, trash game and studio. You know, I don't like Dreamcast Guy's content at all, but, when there's blatant copyright abuse going on, I feel like it's something that you need to speak out about no matter what creator it's happening to. So that's why I decided to make this video. If you liked the video, leave a like. If you didn't, leave a dislike and a mean comment. And yeah, that's pretty much it from me. I'm out.